Welcome to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo, where we're all about mixing tried and true strategies that actually work with the magic of manifestation and the science of programming your unconscious mind so that you walk away feeling integrated, inspired, and aligned. I'm Renee Bowen, certified life and business coach, professional photographer, middle-aged wife, and mom to now 3 grown kids. I've built 2 multiple 6-figure businesses with 0 business training by digging in, learning the methods, and now I'm here to pass them all on to you. From photography and business strategies to energy healing, human design, and the basics of manifestation, we cover it all here. I'm here to help you embrace your multi-passionate brains and lean into the fastest and most efficient ways to reach your goals, whatever they may be. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, or maybe you're just here for the woo-woo, let's dive in and explore all the exciting ways to take your life, business, and self-improvement to the next level. Thanks for joining me, and get ready to be inspired. Hey there, welcome to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo. I'm your host, Renee Bowen, and today we're talking about NLP. So NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and it's something that I am certified in. I use it in all my coaching and a lot of my programs. And so I want to talk to you guys today about ways that you can incorporate NLP lingo into everything that you do, basically your sales processes. It's amazing for sales. And I mean, if you've ever been marketed to, you've basically been NLP'd, which is what we like to say, and NLP'd. So I want to teach you guys how to use some of these strategies inside your sales processes so you can get higher sales and better results just in general with your clients. NLP uses imaginative, perceptual, sensational, behavioral, communication techniques, basically, for enabling people to change their thoughts and feelings and their actions efficiently. Okay. So that's the actual definition. It was invented and introduced to the world by 2 people, Richard Bandler and John Grinder. They believed it was possible to identify and capture the patterns of thought and behavior of successful people in all areas of life, and then to teach them to other people. So that's basically what they've done. And it's based on the idea that everyone operates by an internal map, map of the world, perception, if you will, that they learn through these sensory experiences. So auditory, visual, kinesthetic, which is touch, taste, and smell. Okay. And some of us have more highly developed senses than others. That's a whole neurospicy conversation that we'll definitely have another time because I'm fascinated by that. I have the scent glands of a dog. I swear to God, I can smell everything. So it's always something that's been fascinating to me. But let's talk about some simple NLP techniques that you can use in sales. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through a few of them today. Okay, so the first one is called listening actively. All right, so this is just intentional listening, and it sounds really simple, but when you do it with intention, it makes a huge difference. So it refers to truly understanding what the other person is saying and then collecting clues, right? Really, really paying attention to what that other person is saying. So when you're really paying attention to the wording that a person uses, so let's just say your client, and to their body language as well, you can pretty much learn everything you need to know about them, what they want, what they desire, what they don't like, what they're excited about, and what they really need, like what they're really after. So, for example, if you notice that the other person is feeling relaxed and at ease when they're talking about maybe their pet, maybe you're having a conversation and the topic of their pet comes up, then you've earned a really valuable piece of information. And then you can direct the conversation to the pet or pets, animals in general, when you're seeking that person's trust. Okay. So you can essentially use, let's just call it the pet prism, to get them to feel relaxed, even when the conversation turns to sales or pricing. So always ask questions. That's the first thing when they first inquire. So if we're going to look at this from the point of view of the sales process and working with clients, maybe you're a photographer, creative entrepreneur. So someone first inquires with you about your services, the first time that they do, and then the first time that they even maybe come to a consult, or maybe even if you're on the phone or if you do Zoom consults, things like that, this is really, really imperative. You want to listen more than you talk. Okay. So even on your sales calls, if you are marketing to get someone on the phone with you, that's a great strategy. But if you're the one who's just talking, and you're not listening and you're not inviting them to open up to you, you've kind of lost. Okay. So this leads to number 2, which is understanding your client. Okay. So obviously we all want to understand our client and knowing what they want. And more importantly, how your client wants what they want. Okay. Like how they want it. So a common mistake in this phase is to try and put yourself in the shoes of the other person. So remember, it's not about what you want. Okay. And what kind of product or what kind of session you want. You are not your target client. It's not about you. None of this is about you. It's about their world and how they see it and whether or not they can see themselves in your brand. Okay. Even if it's counterintuitive to you, understand what would make them feel happy or excited and understand what triggers them to take an action and make a decision. So this is something I talk about a lot when I'm coaching other photographers, because a lot of times, especially senior photographers will tell me things like, well, I have teenagers, so I know how to market to them. That is actually not the case. Okay. Your kid is not your client. First of all, you're probably not your client. And so yes, it might seem like, well, I'm a mom and I have kids, so I kind of know what I want. But at the end of the day, it's probably not the case. Okay. Especially if you are a boutique photographer or you want to be a boutique photographer and you are trying to really up your game to seek out more luxury clients, chances are you're not that client. Okay. So you can't use your own map of the world and your own perspective to try and understand them. You really have to understand your target client. So deeply knowing what they want, deeply understanding who that person is. This is great. You need this in marketing just in general, but in terms of sales, you've got to understand how this person operates, what they desire and what they don't desire, so that you can really have an understanding of them. That's why I'm always harping on this whole Gen Z thing and how if you're a senior photographer, you absolutely need to understand your Gen Z client, because that is who you're marketing to. And I'm sorry, but you're not a teenager anymore. And so we've got to understand who they are at a very deep level. Okay, so the third one is body language. Now, amazingly, body language accounts for like 55% of communication between people. So this means that you have to be aware of your own body language and posture, and more importantly, be aware of those of the other person, what they're doing with their body. So can you tell if someone is feeling uncomfortable? Are they sitting frozen in front of you? Are they, clenching their fists? A lot of us photographers, especially if you notice when you are posing people, you can tell immediately if you're paying attention, they could have like the cutest little smile on, and then you pan down and they are like, just like this, clenched fists, right? So that tells us like we have to be really intuitive to know we have to be paying attention to those things just when we're photographing people. But that can also happen in the sales process. It can also happen during a consult or just in general when you're just out meeting people. So just start paying attention to what that person's body language is doing. Are they leaning into you? Are they sitting like very straight? Are they crossed arms? Are they, discerning, and is their chin up? A lot of people who are neurodiverse have a hard time understanding body language. That is actually a thing. So, my son has autism, and this was something that we had to work on when he was little. We had to work on getting him to understand how to read other people's body language, because it is a social skill that we just kind of need in everyday life. But when we break it down to a more specific scenario, like the sales process or, just in general, communicating with your client, it's really imperative that we understand these little cues, that we pick up on them. So being aware of these acts and behaviors, you can understand what you need to do. Okay. So then you can talk about something that will sort of wake them up, right? Are they leaning toward you? Great. It's time to pitch the sale, and so on. So you have to observe their body language and be aware of what you're projecting as well. Are you engaging and leaning in? And another technique that goes hand in hand with this is mirroring. So you might have heard about this before. It's actually a really cool exercise that you can just do and you can practice with just anybody. I always tell this to my coaching clients. Like if you are in front of your client, now let's just say you're in the in-person sales session. Okay. And they're sitting either across from you or to the side. I personally like to sit to their left. And I like to kind of face them this way. That's another sort of strategic strategy, if you will, for good rapport. Okay. You can tell if someone is definitely not comfortable and you can tell that they're not comfortable, you can start mirroring what they're doing. So let's just say they're sitting there, they're a little frozen. Maybe they have their arms crossed or they're kind of feeling a little uneasy about the whole situation when they first get there. Well, just go ahead and mirror them. Like you don't have to, be super. The idea is to not be super obvious about what you're doing, obviously. But you want to just kind of mirror them. Even if it's like, if they have their legs crossed, go ahead and cross your legs. Just do these little subtle movements with your body that mirror what they're doing. And what that does is it unconsciously lets them know that you're on the same team. Okay. And after a little bit and you kind of fall into rapport with them, because rapport is so huge in this entire process. After you fall into rapport with them, then try changing up your body and they will unconsciously change it up themselves as well. They'll mirror you. So switch your legs or lean back or lean in. And you can tell if someone is in rapport with you, whether they mirror you unconsciously or not, because they don't realize they're doing it. So this is a really, really big factor that we can pay attention to and something that we really need to be aware of in just all of our interactions with our clients. Okay, so the next one is just using the right words, basically. So are your words conveying what you really want to happen and what you have to offer? So NLP can help you find some of the most impactful words that affect people's brains. And most importantly, emotions, because that's really kind of what we're wanting to do, right? What we do as creative entrepreneurs and photographers, it's usually an emotional buy, right? People don't need, at the end of the day, people don't need what we do most of the time. So once you find the right words to convey and hit on those emotions, it becomes easier for you to sort of convince people to buy what you're selling. Okay. And it's not about being slimy. It's not about that. Now, I'm just going to preface this by saying there are people in the world who use NLP for not good things, but that's not what we're doing here. And that's not what you're going to do. And I always tell photographers who come to me and say things like, oh gosh, the sales process just makes me feel so slimy. Okay. Well, are you slimy? Are you as a person, as a human being, are you sketchy? Chances are no. So then you're not going to come off that way, right? Your intention, your true nature is going to come through. I really believe that. So for example, when you're saying that you try or should or could or would do something, okay, that sounds a lot less persuasive and a lot less impactful than when you say things like that you're sure, certain, I will, I absolutely, things like that. So choose your wording based on the outcomes that you would like to receive. And if you want to persuade the other side, choose the right words that are going to support that. Okay, so I do want to give you guys some real examples now. These are some words, phrases that you can use in your written communication, your copy on your website, captions, or that you can say in front of people. Okay, so act now. This phrase will encourage someone to provide a quick answer due to a limited time offer. Like it's not, obviously you're putting a constraint. So you're hitting that emotion. The words amazing, incredible gives you the feeling of getting something extraordinary attached to that emotion to attract people. And the word and, okay, the word and is really simple, but if you use it in a substitution, right? So using the word and instead of but, that's going to show that you're taking into account, you're more inclusive, you're bringing things in instead of repelling. And the word because is actually a strong sales word that provides a reason to pay attention to what you're offering. And it just provides more opportunity for people to pay attention. Another word is bestsellers. So again, you're telling people right then what products are popular and what people really want. So if they want to keep up with the trends, this is that. The phrase be the first, that's a really great one. Complimentary instead of using free to attract the right people. So complimentary insinuates that you are gifting something instead of like free, which has a whole different connotation to it, really. And so you could be attracting a whole different person with those words. The word convenient can be powerful. Discover is a really great one. Easy. Everybody likes things that are easy. Imagine. Last chance. Again, you're kind of putting that urgency. So you're hitting on a little bit more of a different emotion there. The word introducing. Last chance. More. Never. New. Premium. Proven. Opportunity. It's a great one. And a good one to kind of infuse is if you're speaking to someone, let's just say you're looking at albums or you're looking at some of your product offerings for your clients. A really great way to infuse interest is to say something like, should we go ahead and see what this would look like with all the images instead of just the 30 that you guys have chosen? Should we go ahead and just see what that would look like? By asking the right questions, you're going to get the right answer. So instead of just saying, you know what, you should do this, this, and this, you could just say, should we go ahead and just see what a full album design would look like? I mean, chances are they're going to say yes, right? So it's all about how you frame that. Okay. And the fifth one is optimistic attitude. So I know that sounds like whatever. Hear me out on this. It's kind of powerful. So NLP is all about breaking down your desired outcome into these clear parts, ones that you can always imagine that happened to you. So therefore, teaching your mind and your body that you have already achieved it. It's already yours. Okay. So that it would get used to the feeling of having it. And this is really important because we know that the unconscious mind really learns by experience. It has to have experiences for it to learn and change patterns and habits. You can't just will yourself and say things for it to happen. You actually have to experience it, the feeling of it, so that it sticks. That's a whole other topic and a whole other podcast too. But I want to touch on it here because it's really important and part of this like NLP strategy you can use for your sales. Whatever you're focusing on, you're going to get more of, right? You've probably heard that saying. And on the other hand, a negative attitude can have drastic effects on your selling practice, on pretty much anything in your life, right? So if you're constantly thinking, they're never going to buy this, they're never going to spend this much money, then you're really just teaching your mind and your body, because remember that 55% of communication is nonverbal, that it's not going to happen. And that is exactly like what you're conveying to your client in that moment, right? Because it's kind of what you're putting out. It's also creating restriction. I mean, we can definitely talk about the scientific sort of methods behind this, and then also the little woo-woo. There's definitely both, but it's not all woo-woo, right? So when you hear people saying, what you focus on grows, it's not all woo-woo. It definitely is scientific. They've got research to back it all up. The string theory, everything, that's a whole other podcast. And we'll probably do it just on that because it is so powerful. Also, side note, they've done so many studies, and I forget the name of the most famous one, but I will look it up and see if I can find it and put it in the show notes on how to really be successful in life, in business, whatever. You need to have both grit and optimism. Okay. So yeah, you have to have grit. You have to have staying power. You've got to like get your stuff done, but you've got to believe that you can do it. Because if you don't believe in yourself, even if you have to like kind of force yourself at first to believe in yourself, if you don't believe in yourself, who will? Right? So you definitely have to have both. And this is why this optimistic attitude in terms of sales is so powerful. So really believing that, when you raise your prices or when you implement something new, what I have is valuable, and what I'm delivering to this client is valuable, and they absolutely will pay for it. They absolutely have. It's already happened. It's already mine.
Okay, photographers. So the content you're listening to right now is actually something I delivered to my group coaching program, Elevate, last year. Obviously, we went way deeper than this, but this is the kind of stuff you can expect from me inside of Elevate. So I wanted to definitely highlight the fact that we don't do just fluffy stuff in there, right? Like, so we open it up to hot seats, and we also have group coaching after I sort of deliver something like this to you guys, because your business is not one size fits all. And we need to make sure that you are understanding what's delivered to you. And also we talk about how you can actually apply it in your business. Now, I've always run Elevate as one level, and I always said that it was basically like a mastermind, but nowhere near the cost, which is still true. But I added 2 different levels to it as well. So now there's 3. I wanted to add a more accessible, more affordable level for those of you who probably just can't invest at the rate that you would like to right now. At only $49, this is like the most in-depth you're going to find. It doesn't really exist anywhere else. And we also still do live coaching with me at that level. I also added a much higher level, which includes a 2-day workshop with me in California in January of next year. It includes some other stuff too, but you can see all of this information at the link that's listed in the show notes here. Evolution, which is the middle level, is basically how I've run this for the last several years. It's really successful. People still get a ton of value from this level because you get Voxer access to me. Voxer is just like a free texting app. So basically you can just ask me a question whenever you want and I'm going to respond. Now, that's included on the top 2 levels, Evolution and All Access. And All Access is unlimited, meaning I'm going to respond to you ASAP. Evolution level is 3 times a week. Still get me, just not quite as much. So I want you to join at the level that feels most aligned with where you are right now. And if you have questions, shoot me a text, 661-505-8470. Yeah, you can text me or hit me up on Instagram at Renee Bowen, DM me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have because both of the top 2 levels, Evolution and All Access, are only open until July 5th. So you need to jump on that. And actually, All Access is almost full. So I do expect that to fill up. Whatever level you join at, you are going to get a lot out of this. And I'm super excited to have you inside.
Okay. So this is why many NLP sales techniques emphasize having an optimistic attitude. Pessimism is really comforting to our brains, right? Because it's something certain. Okay. And if there's one thing we want as humans, it's certainty. So you know exactly where you're going to be when you're pessimistic, right? You know what that outcome is going to be. But at the end of the day, people with a positive outlook, they're just winning a lot more than pessimists. They just are. So believing that you can do it is really the first step in achieving it. But, I know that it sounds cheesy and I know you've heard these quotes a million times, but positivity is really going to help you foster self-confidence in yourself and help you program your mind towards a more, I can do it than anything else. And it eventually is going to prove itself because the more you do it, the more it gets into your system and the more your brain is going to start looking for proof because you're going to find proof of whatever you're looking for. If you set out and say, no one's going to pay these prices, you're going to find a lot of proof to back that up because that's just how our brains work. It's the reticular activating system in the brain. We can do a whole podcast on that too, but you have to decide where you're going to focus your attention. And so that really, really, really matters, having that optimistic attitude. That's why I talk so much about rewiring these programs that we've been running on loop and why why that is so important. Okay. So number 6 is it's a little different, but it's called changing the personal pronoun. This can be really subtle, but basically what this means is you start in the I, right? I, blah, 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 blah. But at a certain point, you switch to the you. Okay. So you're causing this subliminal effect, this little subliminal command, if you will, to be put into your language. It sounds creepy, I know, but you're not using it for evil, remember? So let me just give you a quick example. We don't need to go deep into this, but it can be really simple and can be super effective. So an example of it would be, I really love the albums I offer because I think they're a really great way to archive a lot of images without putting them all over your house in prints. And you really get a sense of the entire story of your session. So I think this outfit was amazing. I love how the colors contrast perfectly with the background. And you can really tell that this was your favorite outfit. So it's really subtle, but when you do that, you're eliciting these feelings of comfort and nostalgia with recalling something that's happened, but you're also you're putting it back on them. You're getting them into the experience with you, right? So if you're just talking about I, nobody really cares, right? Because it's not about you. It's got to be about them. And so if you start there and you switch it up, it can be a really great way to just get people really in to your world and to where you want to take them, basically. All right. Number 7 has a weird title, but I'm going to break it down for you guys. It's going to sound a little confusing at first. It's called marking the command, the embedded command, with analog marks. So basically this just means, you are embedding a command or a trigger word or a phrase that you want your client to unconsciously take action on, right? So purchase or book a session, whatever that is, that's your end goal. Okay. Subliminal influence requires commitment though from your whole body. So you've got to really be understanding what you're doing with your body language. And you're going to be basically embedding these commands, whatever that is, whether you want them to purchase or book with you or whatever that kind of call to action is. You're going to want to kind of back it up with your body. Okay. So you can do things like raising your eyebrows. You can change your tone in your voice. You can, preferably use lower notes when you're being a little bit more suggestive. You can gesture at the decisive word. So using the same gesture when you consistently say the same word. It could be something like a snap. It could be something with your hands. You can adjust the volume of your pitch in general. You can go from something really loud and really exciting to, a whisper. Again, this is very intentional. You can also switch positions with your body to mark the assignment. So this is something you can definitely do during a sales session. If you find especially that there's a little bit of tension maybe happening, and you definitely, I don't know about you, but I don't want my clients to be stressed in the sales session. When I'm doing an in-person sales session, I want them to be relaxed and happy. I want them to feel good. I want to engage all of their senses. I like to bring in fresh baked cookies. I like the studio to smell good, not overpowering, but smell good. I want to have really fun music playing when they get there. The lights are low, no overhead lights. They are disgusting. Those kind of things. So I want this entire sales experience to feel amazing and cozy and comforting and happy. So if you're feeling like your clients are a little stressed or something like that, you can either physically get up and say, I'm going to run to the restroom real quick. I'll be right back. You can break the rapport, come back, restart. You can switch positions with your body. All of these little things make a huge difference subliminally with the client. This is a really interesting, looking at the other person's left eye during the command, that the CTA, during the subliminal thing that you're trying to get across, because the left eye is more attached to the unconscious. So it's connected to the emotional center of our brain, and the right eye is connected to critical thinking. Okay. So it's a little bit of both. And this is because each eye is connected to the opposite hemisphere, basically. So you get the idea. This is why I like to have them sitting to my right, by the way, like I mentioned a little bit earlier in the sales session, because their left eye is a little bit closer to me and it just feels a little bit better. Another one, you can point to the person. Touching is one, but we probably don't. It depends on how touchy-feely you are with your clients. I mean, some people that would make a lot of sense for them to reach over and touch them, but that's not me. I'm not a touchy person. So I don't necessarily want to be doing that too much, right? Unless I really, really know the person. So a really good example of some of these things that I just talked about are, why commercial breaks are so much louder on TV and even on Spotify. They want to really break your pattern and get your attention. So they go louder. So you can use all of these little techniques subliminally in your wording, in your sales process. They're a little nuanced. And I know I'm giving you guys like a lot of examples right now, but I just want you to open your mind to think about this a little bit, because I feel like once I learned NLP, I realized how incredibly persuasive pretty much everything in life is. We're being sold to constantly. And so it makes me a lot more aware of that. So you can be a little more discerning as well, right? And not be so much of a consumer, but it's a really great skill to learn for your sales sessions. And again, I really truly believe that when we know this and we're paying attention to it and we really get it in our bodies, we are going to just be better. We're going to be better photographers, creatives. We're going to be better business owners, because we are approaching it from this perspective of, I really want to understand what's going on with my client. Okay. So we have 2 more to go. Number 8 that I want to go over is the embedded question. And just like an embedded command that we were just talking about before, it's just a question. Okay. So when you ask the right question, their brains are going to automatically want to try to find the right answer that you eventually want them to get to. So a good example of this is sort of embedding your command inside of a question, basically. So I wonder how these 2 images would look next to each other as canvases, or should we see what this image would look like as the album cover? These are really simple and subtle, but they can be super, super effective. And you can even use embedded questions, like I said, on your website. You can use them in your captions. It's a great way to get people to engage with you on social media by embedding the question. So you start with, what is my end goal here? What do I want them to do? What action do I want them to take? So you do have to know that first. But once you do, then you can ask the right question. Okay. So this last one is, you've heard it a lot, but I'm going to break down why this is so important. It's storytelling. Okay. We hear a lot about storytelling in terms of marketing right now. If you know who Donald Miller is, building a story brand, everything that man does is amazing. Love that book. Love all of his podcasts, everything. There's a reason why that story brand works in getting your brand messaging across and, just in general, creating a strategy around that. So you can process embedded messages with a storytelling technique. This can be in person, in sales copy, in your captions, to basically apply a subliminal influence in a really simple way. So, probably by now, if I were just kind of come on here and say, once upon a time, you're going to immediately switch into story mode, right? So something happens in your brain, in your unconscious, where, you don't have to critically think anymore. Our defense mechanisms sort of drop, and we don't seem to want to question things. We just kind of automatically fall into, okay, once upon a time, and especially if you had a good experience with that, right? So again, this is definitely going to depend on what your experience with story time really was. But this obviously we're not going to walk into a sales process or any kind of like copy on our website and just say once upon a time. What you're going to do is you're going to embody a story, right? Almost like as a metaphor to really talk about what is your end goal? What do you want this person to ultimately take action on? And how can you relate it to a story in your life? And it literally opens up a whole new world for people. So my grandmother always said, that reminds me of a time that my friend told me, stuff like that, right? So you have to, in your sales technique process, in this journey of like really honing these sales techniques and this language, I would love for you to write down just some prompts that just come to your mind, right? A good way to do this is just to kind of sit there and brain dump for a second about what are some of the funniest things that ever happened to me? What are some of the most impactful things that happened to me? Who in your life was a good storyteller? Maybe you can draw upon their stories, right? I don't know about you, but one of my uncles is really amazing at storytelling. And my husband's an amazing storyteller. So sometimes I will just, if I'm like kind of stuck, I'll just like try and sync up to his brain, which is a very neural spicy brain, but he really thinks in terms of stories just automatically. And some of you may have that knack already. Like some of you may already be really good at this and you're just not really using it yet. So I want you to lean into that and see where it takes you. Think about the stories in your life that you can then apply to all of these other things that come up in your day to day, right? So if you've been at this a minute, if you've done sales sessions before, if you have been working with clients, then you already know some of the little nuances that can happen inside of a sales session. And so you can use those to come up with these really cool storytelling ideas and techniques that are just going to help your sales process. So all of this is really designed to help you reframe your idea of in-person sales. If you are not doing in-person sales as a photographer, I really, really hope you consider doing this, even if you want to do Zoom in-person sales. Okay. There's a lot of different ways you can do this without you physically doing it. And I've heard photographers tell me things from, I don't have the time, to I'm terrified, like, and a whole gamut in between there. And I get it. Trust me. When I started doing this years and years ago, I had never sold, like, other than working in restaurants, I had never sold anything. And it wasn't until I dove into this that I realized how much I had sold in my lifetime, right? Thinking back to all my days bartending and waiting tables, I always sold out the special every night. Always, just because I wanted to win. I am super competitive. And so I wanted to win. And I would go in, even if I hated the special, even if I thought it was gross, because I'm not the most, what you would call adventurous eater. Like, I'm not going to try a lot of different stuff. I'm super picky. It's just how it is. But even if I didn't like it, I'm going to sell it because I wanted to win. And all I had to do was get really excited about it, be optimistic, embed some natural, words in there that would invite them a little bit more into thinking about how awesome it is, equating it with other things, that would hit their emotional center. I had no idea I was really doing that. I just kind of did it. And so once I started this sales process and working with clients, at first I would get like ill. I would want to throw up before I went to a sales session. Like, I would get sick to my stomach. I would get so nervous. I have anxiety, and I've had anxiety for most of my life. So this just like hit on all those anxiety centers in my brain. And I knew at the end of the day, first of all, I knew that if I wanted to make money as a photographer, I had to get through this. But really, if this was a trigger like that for me, then I had to get through it, then I had to work on it. And that's really what kind of propelled me into just doing it. Like Tony Robbins always says, like, if something comes up and you feel like you can't do it, then you must. And I'm a really big believer in that. I'm a big believer in that, if I want a different result, I've got to do something different. So this was a big trigger. I had to look at it. I had to dive deep into all of that worthiness discussion that was in my head and work on that and really kind of clear it and understand that fear of, being rejected and not being liked or being told that I wasn't worthy. That fear was never really going to completely go away. It was just me learning how to rewire it and to work with it and to sort of dance with it. And now I love my sales sessions because I look at them as an amazing way for me to serve my clients in the deepest and most meaningful way that I can, because this is me taking them through the entire process and really working with them to completion in that way, and not just like handing them a flash drive and saying, okay, peace out. That was really fun. Good luck printing those images. They're going to look like, if, you bring them to Costco. I am really leading them through that process. And as a professional photographer, it's my job. So if you're not doing it yet, I really hope that you consider doing it. I hope this podcast helps you at least open up to some of the possibilities that you can use in not just your sales technique when they're in front of you, but as we know, the pre-selling starts well before the first inquiry. Okay. So your pre-selling is your marketing. And this is all stuff that you can use in your marketing, all that you can use in your brand messaging and your brand voice. Like, what are you saying to the world? What are you saying to your clients? It starts with you, and it starts when you decide it starts. So I hope this was really helpful. Let me know if it was. Let me know if you want to go deeper into any of these topics that you think would be good for an entirely other podcast too. Like I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on those. So thanks for listening, guys. If you are enjoying the podcast, I'd love for you to leave us a review. It helps tremendously. And once a month, I choose one person and I do a random giveaway on either Audible books or an Amazon gift card, or maybe even more than that. So if you want to be entered into that monthly giveaway, leave a review and screenshot it and then tag me on Instagram. I'm just at Renee Bowen, pretty much across the board, but on Instagram, tag me so I can see it, and I will definitely put you in the running for that.
That's all for today, guys. I hope you loved it. Tag me, reach out with any questions about Elevate. Hope to see you inside. Have an awesome day. Love you guys.